So we get to meet Hera's father in this episode. Hera returns home in this episode of Rebels. The Phoenix Squad is at its last leg as many of the rebel fighters are taken out by the Empire while leaving their numbers dwindling. Worried that there won't be any more places to hide their ships, Hera has a plan to fix this problem or even give the rebellion an asset that they could use and benefit them in the future. In need of a helping hand, they make contact with Cham Syndulla, who happens to be Hera's father who fought in the Clone Wars and even with Mace Windu at one point. Hera has a past grudge against her father, and while Kanan is really taken to him, they coordinate a plan to overtake and steal this carrier that houses basically all the Imperial bombers, and with Syndulla's experience, he can be a great addition to this group, especially on this mission. But it turns out that Syndulla has a different motive and wants to blow up this station as revenge for his planet, which makes sense because the Empire at this point has taken over or has really a lot of control over his planet, and they want to have their own sort of rebellion, and this would be a starting point for them. But this conflicts with our group's motives as they want the bomber ship to take back for themselves, but Syndulla and his gang have the upper hand and knock out the Ghost group to get a head start. They disable the hyperdrive and even begin to plant bombs throughout the carrier. Luckily, Hera wakes up and they make a plan to go and stop Syndulla from blowing up the carrier, at the same time stealing the ship so the rebels can use it. This was a much better episode than last week's, but I still feel like we didn't get much depth as we could have had. It was nice to see Hera's father and get a little hint at her past, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more. I think if the situation took place on her actual home planet, we could have seen much more of her own kind and maybe other faces from her past and get a better idea what environment she grew up in. And the message of the day became fairly obvious towards the middle of the episode, and I was just kind of waiting for what beat to hit all the way to the end. It was a good episode, but a fairly predictable and an inventive one as well. So that's it for this week's episode of Rebels, and hopefully next week is a step up again as we get toward to this season finale, and see you next week.